Yes, indeed. Welcome to the Bladtcast. This is a big one for me because I'm 50 now, and if I'm going to turn 50, I want to celebrate with artwork from our friend Jean Beretta, who many years ago drew me Jar Jar Binks popping out of a cake. So our video audience will see that. And I am pleasured is the wrong word, privileged to be joined by the great Dennis Miller. Dennis, I'm going to ask you a very important question about me turning 50. Is this the little man you hired?
I I am happy to pleasure you. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah,
Anyway,
well, and we're not going to need any of
listen.
our special guests. We'll put this segment behind the paywall, as they say.
Well, listen. I got you two things for your birthday: Freddie Peralta, which I love,
Appreciate that. Yeah.
and we didn't spend 38.5 a year on Framber Valdez, who
Yeah.
who hit his own player with a baseball.
Yeah.
I mean,
He seems like a real
Christian,
team
don't you
player.
think they must have some player grapevine that says, certain guys like Barry Bonds partitioning himself off in a rocking chair? And, well, at least he, though, was delivering, albeit in a balcoed way. But I'm just saying, to think that Framber Valdez, in a fit of pique, hit his own player
Yeah.
with a baseball. The players must be irate about that.
Yeah, I feel like the players have some code for that just says bad guy. I mean they
That
know.
guy.
Yeah, they're like, oh yeah, he's a real Barry Bonds. Well, Dennis, we don't want to be selfish with the pleasure. We don't want to be selfish with the party. So we're gonna
Who?
start off.
Who's in the bullpen? Who's in the bullpen?
Well, we're gonna start off by talking to one of the nicest people we've ever met. Not just Dennis Miller, but our friend from the Dennis Miller Option, the podcast that we did for a few years. Our friend Lindsey Floyd. Lindsey, thank you for being here.
Hi, oh my God.
Lindsay, one of the sweetest, funniest women. Lovely to see you.
Oh, it's so good to see you. What a compliment. Gosh, it's been a long time. You guys look wonderful.
Oh, stop it. We do, though. We do look great. Dennis and I both look fantastic.
Well,
yes.
it's mostly talking to Dennis, but yeah, you too, Christian.
Oh, that's fair. I want to start off because Lindsey, talk a little bit about the setting that you're in.
Oh yeah, so this is not a sex dungeon. This is a horse harness room. I have been doing a bunch of stuff on a ranch lately, kind of living the retired life. I'm not 40, but I feel retired, so I just play with horses all day and I get paid for it.
Well, let's talk about there's a particularly special boy in your life now.
Oh, yes, that's Luke. Luke really likes popcorn. That's why he's nodding his head like that. He wants more popcorn.
Yeah. So she's just hand feeding Luke some popcorn, and obviously that horse life was always a big part of your life. But now you're actually living on a ranch down near San Diego, right?
Yeah, I'm living on a ranch. I'm working at another ranch. I went out and bought myself this horse. I'm all in right now. It's been pretty good though.
And I wanted to tell Dennis that Lindsey, you were part of the Rose Parade this year, and you shared some video to social media, which our video audience is seeing now. Talk a little bit about that. Tell Dennis what you got to do.
Oh my gosh, we rented a bunch of horses out to this Royal Hawaiian family. So they rode the parade route. I walked with them. It was a very wet day, but it was fun. It was exciting.
Yeah, it's true. Very, very rainy this year for the Rose Bowl. For the Rose Parade.
My sad cowboy hat went very flat.
Well, it looked like a great time. And Lindsey, how much do you miss the Dennis Miller Option? That's the real question. Getting to talk to me and Dennis a couple times a week.
I miss you guys so much. We had so much fun on the show. You guys, I was always laughing. I would love to work in comedy again. I think that's got my heart now.
You were doing some more serious podcasting, right? Like relationship advice stuff and things like that.
Yeah, recently I had been doing a dating and relationship show, kind of a callback to my Loveline days. But that ended last June. I've almost been like about 9 months, all horses. So.
Yeah. So, do you have you obviously we made some friends through the podcast. I know I mentioned to you that Corby in Missouri is going to be very excited to see the three of us back together doing anything because of how often he said it. But do you have a particular moment you'd like to share from those wonderful podcast days in Culver City?
Christian,
I
it wasn't the
can't say
wall.
there's nothing specifically special. I had a
Oh,
really good time.
okay.
You guys are always joking. I feel like Dennis always pushes the envelope, which really makes you think. And we just had so many cool people in as guests. You guys covered a lot of topics. It was probably my favorite show to work on.
Sorry, Dennis, what were you saying?
I was just saying that I remember the show being about the loosest possible hang. Maybe it was too loose because it never really caught on, but I remember there were mornings, or was that the radio show, I guess, when we did the radio show, Christian, where I literally would come in so late that I'd have you do the first segment.
Yeah.
When the podcast started, I remember thinking it has to be a little more, well, appropriately enough for Lindsay's setting right now, but it had to be a little more reined in. But uh, I didn't want it to be organized, let's say. I just
Yeah.
wanted to be, 3, 4 friends times when
I'm
Salman.
not hearing all that Dennis is saying. You might have to tell me back, Christian.
Okay. Yeah, but it's okay. Well, you can check it out in post. But it was fun, and talking about the radio show, Dennis. You were upfront in those days that you would occasionally, you'd need some help sleeping, and you're like, oh, I took like a half an an Ambien, and then the next, there would be times where you're like, I don't know how much of the show I remembered. There's like that segment where, I might talk a little bit more, the one where you're like kicking the tires,
I remember when we used to have callers that were long-winded. I'd, geez, you look back on this and you think, wow, no wonder it never took off. I remember I'd say to a caller, is there a gas station between me and the end of this phone call? Because how much time do you feel you need? I'm going to check out while you finish this. And if the guy said, I need 45 seconds, I'd go, okay, I'll see you back in a minute or so. And just let them talk. And like I said, I always liked when I was a kid, I used to watch Steve Allen's TV show, and it had no restraints almost. And I wanted to emulate that. But sometimes I think it got a little too distracted.
Well, when you're talking about long-winded callers, there was one time we had somebody who's particularly long-winded, and you said, "I'm going to let you keep talking," and we would fade them down. And I think we played "Stairway to Heaven." It was some Zeppelin song, so we would bring the song up, and then we'd fade it down, and they would be in the middle of whatever they were talking about. And I believe that after that is when you coined the phrase, "You good?" Because he got his say, in the course of that. And again, as we're talking about it, yeah, maybe that show wasn't for everybody, Dennis.
Well, the podcast, though, I really enjoyed it. But after a few years, I don't know, Christian, I hear about podcasts where people then go and sell out Madison Square Garden to watch them do the podcast. Maybe we weren't in at the right time on podcasts, but I don't remember it being like that. It seemed more like a small bridge club or something.
Yeah, definitely a coffee clatch, a book club or something. Lindsay, what do you think we could have done to get the Dennis Miller option inside of a stadium? How could we have done the show at the Forum? What was missing? You produced a ton of podcasts, more than I did.
Oh, please. I mean, I feel like you guys could still do the Forum. I still get people asking me where they can find old Dennis Miller option episodes like daily.
All right. Well, that's probably what it was. Yeah. Did you see, Dennis, that they gave a Golden Globe out for best podcast this year?
I did. I saw, I did not watch the Golden Globes, but I saw that Amy Poehler,
Yeah.
who seems like an amiable soul. I don't know much about her, but she won. I was a little surprised, although I don't know his work either, but I've met him when I go to UFC fights, and he seems like a nice man. Joe Rogan seems to stand astride that field like a latter day Colossus of Rhodes. and he wasn't even nominated. And then I'm reminded that Bill Belichick is not a Hall of Famer. So sometimes when you're the lead sled dog, people can find other reasons once they get caught out for not voting you. They'll find all sorts of reasons, but I just think that sometimes there's somebody who's the front runner, and the people who are behind them are not prone to honor them any more than they feel that they're already being honored. So I think Rogan's the state of the art, as I understand it, and Belichick, obviously, the greatest football coach who ever
Well,
lived.
to take that last part first, when it comes to sports writers voting, there's always, they feel like some people need to wait. With baseball, it's always like, well, this guy didn't get in on the first try, so nobody should, this guy didn't get in unanimous. I mean, so everybody, they always have to make their voices heard. And, they'll proudly be like, yep, I'm the one who said that Belichick isn't a Hall of Famer. And it's like, all right, I mean, you didn't need to. They don't make you say that it is. So, they definitely want that appreciation.
When I was a football announcer for a couple of years, talk about it being a stranger in a strange land, I did find out that the players by and large absolutely loathe the fact, because it is a dangerous profession, and in addition to being dangerous, you have to work your ass off constantly just to make that squad, then to become a starter, then to become somebody who's been an all pro. The players loathe the fact that the gatekeepers on Football Valhalla, the people who shepherd them in, are sports writers. They cannot reconcile that the person who has a call on whether or not they assume immortality in their chosen endeavor is chosen by a guy in a bad corduroy jacket with patches on the elbows, getting in at 4:30 before a night game to get a free hot dog off those rollers in the press room. They hate that. So it didn't surprise me when the writers who Belichick was always perpetually let them know in not certain and not so certain ways that he thought they were idiotic, that they didn't vote him in. Anyway, we shouldn't vary too far on this because I'm sure Lindsay could care less. But let's talk about equestrian events. Let's talk about the great Bill Steinkraus in the equestrian Olympics.
Well, you can think up your favorite equestrian Olympiad. I did want to mention, actually, because Joe Rogan had talked about, he wasn't nominated for a Golden Globe because he found out they wanted him to give them $500 for an entry fee. And listen, we all understand how much money Joe Rogan makes, but it was the principle of like, why do I have to give you $500 to maybe even not win?
Oh, I
So
didn't know that,
yeah,
Christian.
yeah,
Oh, that's silly of them.
yeah, no, exactly. And also, I mean, I know somebody probably could have put his producer Jamie probably could have kicked in the 500, but I get it though when the boss doesn't want to do something. But
Lindsay, in all your brushes in your involvement in the podcast world, what do you think would be the main selling point for a podcast? Is it when people feel that the podcaster or the cast of characters on the podcast are genuinely more intimate with the audience, right? Isn't that the coin of the realm in the podcast world, some sort of intimate connection with the listeners?
So, what Dennis is asking is the idea that what makes a podcast work is kind of a very close, intimate connection. They feel like they know you. Is that what they're looking for?
Yeah, that's usually what I would hear when it comes to like audience development, is kind of creating a space where they feel friendly, where it feels like a friendly relationship where they relate to you. I think sometimes people get too broad and it doesn't feel personal anymore.
Lindsay, I want to let you tell us what the rest of your day is going to look like. Obviously, this comes during a break where was that a horse birthing suite? How did you describe it? I don't think that's what it's called, is it?
This is a harness room. So we do carriage event, like we pull carriages. We've got Cinderella carriages. We've got hay wagons. We've got an 1800s road coach and a stage coach. So these would be the harnesses. These big yokes go around the horse's neck, and then you attach all the gear towards it, to it, and all that. After this, I'm gonna go back. We're roping feral babies so we can get halters on their heads for leading, and we're gonna trim their feet today. And then I'll probably do a few rides myself later.
Wait a
Well-
second.
Wild West around here.
I'm roping feral babies this afternoon too, and having my feet trimmed down. So what an amazing coinkydink.
Well, if people want to keep tabs on Lindsey, you are on social media, Lindsey Kay Floyd. And this doesn't get you off the hook. Lindsey is going to be back on the Bladtcast because last year she took it upon herself to watch the television series Lost 20 years after it started. And I said, let's save it for the podcast when you finally finish, because Dennis, it's not worth having real conversations anymore. Not when you can create content, you know.
Well, Christian, I watched the first one myself around 3 months ago.
Oh.
I thought I was flipping through and it says shows you can watch. And I thought, what was that Lost thing about? I never watched that. And I found the first episode invigorating. I can't say I went on with it, but is it like a big dinosaur or something? Well, at the end, I remember a guy was up in a tree and something's looking down on him. I'm thinking, what is this, like Jurassic Park or something? Or is it an invisible shaky thing? Or what did the monster turn out to be?
The answer to all of the theories you had is yes. It's a little bit of everything. There is a smoke monster. By the way, they ended up casting Matthew Fox as the Doctor character, but when they originally wrote the script, a Pittsburgh friend of yours, Michael Keaton, was going to play the Doctor, and he was going to die. And then they realized, well, we're going to do a weekly show on this island. Probably would be helpful to have a doctor. So they decided that they weren't able to have Batman on the show, but at least for a good reason.
You remember I told you that story where Keaton and I were coming back from I think it was the Grammys.
Yeah.
We were in New York. We were flying into Los Angeles, and we were in first class together, sitting in two seats. We had a great time. The only reason I say that is because we were next to each other, so I was privy to this from around a foot away. And we're flying into LA, and I don't know if you've ever had a bird sucked up into your engine while you're flying, but you always think, how could that be of consequence? But I'm telling you, that just when you come past San Bernardino and you see LA off to the right, we're lowering down, and a bird gets sucked into the engine. And I'm talking about kaboom, and the whole thing starts to shake and screams, and then quietude, and then Keaton, don't worry, I'm Batman.
And he is Batman. They can't take that away from him. Well, Lindsey, thank you so much for your time coming to us on location. We appreciate that. And like I said, you're going to get a text from me probably later today about setting up the next time you're going to be on the podcast.
Lindsey, I love you. You're one of the sweetest souls I've met.
Dennis mentioned that you're one of the sweetest souls that he's ever met. And thank you for being on with us.
And Christian, tell her I love her. Christian, tell her I love her.
And Dennis wants you to know that he loves you. And but I'm not gonna lie, I love you like this much more. It's only a little, but it is more. So I win.
I don't know. I'm gonna lean towards Dennis on this one. Dennis,
Okay,
thank you for everything you
that's
did
probably
for me.
fair.
I appreciate it.
Well,
Okay,
thank you, Lindsey. And
Christian,
if we're
good tech here, by the way. Was that her, or is that an AI thing? Why couldn't I talk to her?
I'm not sure. I think it was the phone she was using with the headphones. It was good. I thought that conversations work best when someone needs to relay the information between both people.
You're right. You're right.
And, we literally just had one of the sweetest souls we've ever crossed paths with. In fact, in Star Trek 2 of Kirk saying, of all the souls I've encountered, his was the most human. I would now like to bring on someone who might be the least human. Well, if we're going to talk to one of the nicest people we've ever met, we should follow that up with one of the most dark souls you'll ever meet. The one, the only, Mr. Salman Weiss. James Weiss himself. As
Good
I
to
live,
see you.
America's sweetheart.
Look at that demented jack-o'-lantern.
Oh my! Happy birthday, Christian. Whatever.
Thank you.
Whatever.
Yeah, I'm 50.
Whatever.
What are we going to do about it? Actually,
Like Sally O'Malley. I'm 50.
I'm 50.
I don't hear Sal.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. And through the magic of editing, I think we can all hear Salman, right?
Yes.
You know what?
Yes.
I have a setting on my phone that tells me when somebody's speaking in encyclical. And now that Sal has arrived, I know that all is defined in the universe.
Well, what I thought I would share with the people. Oh, that's right. Bladtcast Nation, they exist. Which, after 13 years, there's got to be somebody out there who is excited for the show, but also excited to see the three of us together again. We have a lot of Mets talk, and I think, Dennis, you should always lay down the ground rules as a proud Pittsburgh boy.
Did you say meth talk?
Yeah. Did you get the pipe that I mailed you with some of the best crystal blue persuasion that money can buy?
Tommy James and the Shondells way ahead of the curve with that song. I mean, those were two guys from Pittsburgh. Tommy's from Pittsburgh. It just makes me laugh that he was he was the Laird Hamilton on the crystal blue wave back then. He would be the most unlikely guy. It's like Tommy Rowe coming off Dizzy and doing the pusher.
So the the groundwork I was looking to lay was not with Tommy James and the Shondells, but the fact that you haven't turned your back on the Buccos as much as the Buccos have turned their back on being competitive, it seems.
Well, listen, they haven't turned their back. It's just the way it goes. I love the kid, and I just read an article that said there's some discussions, not about Paul Skeens, but is it Skeens or Skeens, by the way? I don't know. Skeens. Not about him, but I read some article, maybe it was in the New York Post or a blurb somewhere, maybe Reddit. I don't know. I follow the Mets and the LA Kings, that there's some talk between the Pirates and the Mets, and I was thinking, boy, you know what it was? It was an article about them inquiring the Pirates about Brett Beatty or who's the other kid that's there? Yeah, Vientos.
Yeah.
And like the retort from the other commenters was my thought exactly. Hey, give them both and throw in one more and try to get Paul Skeens out of there. Give them both of those guys. And it would take a little more than that because I haven't seen anything like him since, peak DeGrom, right? He is great.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's phenomenal. And the Mets play the Pirates on opening day at Citi Field. So obviously the expectations that it will be Paul Skeens and our new ace, Freddie Peralta. And I'm sure the two of them have matched up a bunch of times because it's longtime NL Central opponents, but that should be exciting. Salman's going to come over the house for 10 a.m. first pitch. I don't think it's enough to entice Dennis to get down to Burbank, but you'd be invited. I'd even make room on the grill to feed Dennis.
Well, listen, if Sal brings his 5-layer dip, we're all in for a treat. I think that was beans, cheese, guac, chili relleno, and Sammy the Bull Gravano was down at the bottom.
There we go.
5-layer dip.
Well, when we're talking about New York sports, we're talking about the Mets. We're talking about how passionate everybody gets. Now, Salman has seen this. Yes. I don't know if Dennis has ever seen this. This is something different, Sal, that you saw a while ago. I don't know how well, Dennis, you remember the actor Nick Turturro. He was on NYPD, and his kids convinced him because he gets so passionate about when he'd watch the Yankee games, and they were like, "Oh, you should post that." So. He's great. It's, when he's not all in it and all amped up, he seems like a good guy. But here he is after the Mets signed Juan Soto, who had been a Yankee the previous season.
Hey, Juan Soto, I got 2 words for you. Fuck you. That's right. Fuck you and the horse you rode in on. And the cavalry behind you. That's right, motherfucker. Yeah, I'm taking it personal. We gave you our love. We gave you our fucking heart and soul. It wasn't enough. You turned your cap around after the World Series. I saw that fucking move. 700 million, 730. Yeah, it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. Guaranteed years, it wasn't enough. You don't even choose the Dodgers. You don't even choose the Dodgers. You go off Broadway to the Mets. You don't want to be on Broadway, and you don't want to be Judge's guy. You don't want to be Judge's partner. Oh, that's right, Judge. Now it's your team. That's it. Let's stick it up his fucking ass. That's right. Let's go out. Let's get Burns freed Bregman. Let's fucking take
You
Oscar.
get
I
some
don't
of
give a
those guys.
fuck. Now we're
You
not
know,
fucking
his last
around.
5 parts in movies haven't been this long. And, you know, I did not hear one word he said, Christian. I don't know who's doing your tech over there at the Bladtcast, but methinks it might be Anwar Sadat's security team, because this is really rickety, bordering on Rube Goldbergian technical support we're getting here. But he
Well,
looked pissed off.
he
He's not a
was.
Mets fan. He's obviously a Yankees fan with the
Yeah.
logo. And I read between the lines that,
Yeah.
but listen,
I'm going to put him
Soto's,
on with, we're not even listening to him. I just want everybody to watch him throw the bat at the end. That's how mad he is. Yes. That's how you know. He brought that heat to NYPD Blue every week, Dennis.
well, let's circle around and follow him for the rest of his fucking day. What am I on, the Truman Show here? Can we talk, the three of us who are together here? Let's circle back and see him throw the bat. Can we go to the video of the next morning when they're cleaning up the bat? And he's back
he
with
does
his
have
kids having
he does have a
porridge?
YouTube show
Jesus
where
Christ, we get together once every 2 years, and all of a sudden I'm on This Is Your Life, Nick Totoro.
he does have a YouTube show where he delivers pizzas to celebrities. You want to watch that? He brought it
Yeah.
to Bill Burr in bed.
Sure, yeah, sure, it's immersion.
But it's all right. I've got visuals that don't have any audio, so it's going to augment. So there's
Boy, I wish you had the producer I had when I did my show. He was crackerjack. Somehow, now that you're the talent, you've completely shot the bed. What are you doing?
no, I have the producer you had when the radio show started before I came in. That's who I have.
Well, who was that guy? He sent me.
I don't know if I want to say his name, but
Yeah, don't say his
yeah,
name.
yeah.
I
No
don't want to
names.
embarrass him,
No
but I do
names.
remember saying, "Hey, Well, that was the pod. I get them mixed up. We did a radio show and a podcast. I remember when we did the radio show, I was literally diving into doing 3 hours of radio each
Yeah.
day, and had never done it. And I said, "Can I get some outline of how the show goes?" And he sent me a one-page thing for 3 hours, and the first thing said 7:05. Dennis begins to talk. 7:10 break. This is what this. You know, I looking back, it is that easy, quite frankly, talk radio. If you just free yourself up and think it doesn't matter, I'll just talk for 3 hours with my friend Salman and Christian. But at the beginning, you're thinking, shouldn't I have something to say like, we'll be right back after, you know, you're that scared at the beginning. But it made me laugh that he was so not enamored of the gig. You could tell he thought he was slumming, that he sent me a one-page thing for over 180 minutes, my first radio show. And it just says, Dennis talks, Dennis stops talking.
Yeah. It was one of those things where I'd worked with you before. I'm like, listen, Dennis is an easy guy to work with if you follow a couple of, really simple rules. Just be simple to the point. Don't be an asshole. And he didn't take my advice. That was really the problem, But
Geez, so you look back on show business and you just think, I'm glad I got it earlier than some. It is the least serious endeavor you'll ever participate in your life that's treated, honest to God, it's treated like, an airdrop at Arnhem Bridge, for God's sakes. And, you look back on it. I remember when I got Monday Night Football, I used to always try to phonetically plot out what I was going to say. I was so scared. And you look back and you think the key to it is just sort of falling in, and it either works or it doesn't. Just yap a little and you either get whacked or you at least go out on your shield and you sound like you were a cool cucumber. But you don't get that in show business. Everybody, you've got the guy outside your half door on a movie, that bad screen door that always pinches your hand, and he's, we've got 5 minutes, we're walking, and you're thinking, oh my God, is there anything less consequential in the entire universe than showbiz that's treated more like it is the end all and be all? Funny business.
Sounds of marriage. Yeah. Well, look, some of us love show business, Dennis. We celebrate it.
Listen, I loved it too, and as much as it made me laugh too. It's like Marty Short has it perfectly. Nobody reveres it or sees the innate goofiness of it. The fact that it doesn't really matter in a way.
So what's more fun to talk about is the Mets, and we do get together and talk about it. And Sal, I want you to.
Hair looks.
Oh no, it's a no. Actually, you're wearing a Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon shirt. Your hair looks like Jimmy's. It's perfect.
Yeah, I had Pilates this morning, and I wear the Jimmy shirt because I don't know, something about the cut there. They've got them cut down. They hang so low that when I go to do some Pilates move that exposes my distended Adam Weston season 2 belly, it stays covered. So thank you, Jimmy.
Yeah, well, Jimmy knew what he was doing. So, Salman, the
Yes.
New York Mets boil down to one sentiment for you, which it's someone who has, fortunately for you, been traded to I was going to call them the Oakland Athletics, the Sacramento Athletics, who may or may not move to Las Vegas. So summarize your 2-word feeling about the Mets going forward this year.
McNeil sucks.
Yes. I've mentioned to Dennis before the number of texts I get from Salman that just say McNeil sucks. But even when McNeil wasn't involved, but usually when he was. And what do you think about a guy like that, Dennis, who everything seems to be like not his fault, even when it's his fault that he swung at 3 bad pitches and then he spikes his helmet into the ground?
Well, I don't know about Sal, but McNeil had his moments for me. He was an adept. I thought he swung a clever bat, let's say. He must have been a pain in the ass because too many, where there's smoke, there's fire. But I remember thinking at some point, when you're a scratch golfer and you're 38, I thought of McNeil towards the end as a hobbyist who was biding time before he made a run at the senior tour, quite frankly, or the Corn Ferry Tour. Probably too old for that. But I do think that he has an amazing hand-eye. It sounds like he's a scratch golfer. It's age 50. So I think he's just cashing some money here. And it's like, the money isn't crazy. There are guys who I never even have heard of getting $4 million. I think that's the minimum. And a lot of guys get 8. And I don't know what McNeil, he must be in the low teens, right? So you do 3 or 4 more seasons of that. You cash 42. You walk away from that with 20. And then from 42 to 50, God willing, with your health and all that, you hit the golf ball all over the world. And then at 49, you try out for the senior tour. So I think that's McNeil's plan.
That's a nice
who was
plan.
that cat
like
we
that.
had for a while who blew the World Series right off the first fucking play when he didn't cover that Kansas City guy in left field?
Cespedes.
Cespedes. You could see
Right.
Cespedes wanted to be a rancher, I mean, every time they cut to him, he was on an Appaloosa in the lower 40 with Dan Blocker. And I thought, what a perfect day job for these guys. They come in. There's no way, you can't drum yourself out of the core. Look at McNeil. He's still in. He'll get another. And this year he'll think, okay, I need to get 2 more years. So why don't I pick a number? I'll hit 280 this year and they'll give me a raise.
Yeah.
It's like Jim, when you think back to where it's come, and who's the guy? Don Fear, I guess, breaks it all up. But they were treating the players.
Marvin Miller.
You've read Ball 4 where Boughton goes in, and he's 21-7. He goes in, and they want to cut his salary from like 16 grand down to 15.
Right.
And so that was sick on that end. But no, it's just I don't know how it sustains. But I guess it's all a back end thing now. These are loss leaders, right? I mean, look, you get in and you can afford to lose it because if you buy it and hold it for 10 years, it's going to be like holding great artwork or holding the Honus Wagner card. It's funny that the Honus Wagner card is now real life, that you just buy it. And that's why I admire what the Dodgers do. I don't like it. I think it's bad for the game. But at some point, you just push all the chips in, and they probably they might come out even because I think they get 4 million loyal fans out there selling a lot of merch, a lot of Dodger dogs. But the back end, where you get to be in the parade the whole time, and then on the back end, you make billions of dollars. I mean, so I think that's what baseball's turned out to be.
Yeah, and they have a sweetheart TV deal because they made their TV deal in the middle of bankruptcy.
With themselves, practically.
What do you mean, Chris? I can't hear Sal again. Is he
Oh,
talking?
Sal was talking. I don't know what happened. So, yeah, the Dodgers have get to keep a lot of their revenue from their TV deal because they were bankrupt at the time. I don't have the breakdown of it, but they get to keep a lot more money than other teams. So they're spending all this money. They have a very valuable product here locally, the TV rights. But you're right. I do see a couple of Dodger hats on my walk to school every day. So they are doing well in the merch department.
The LA Dodgers, you there, Sal? Can I
Yeah,
hear
I'm
you?
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think of the LA Dodgers like Peter Benchlay's shark. They're a perfect machine. They move commerce over the gills. They're always going to be the biggest fish in the sea. And the proximity to, Japan, it's a perfect storm.
It's a
And
killing machine.
yeah, the only thing that can happen is, baseball as well as I do, and let's be reminded the great Mickey Lolich passed away yesterday, or whenever you air this, but it was yesterday in real time.
Sure.
And Gibson looked like the greatest pitcher who ever lived that year. 68, I think we're talking about, and Lolich goes 3-0 at a Zoftig 245. He's like, Catfish Hunter. If he ate Vita Blue, he looked so big. And and I think he had some big hits in that. Anything can happen in a weird way. Usually not.
In a short
Usually,
series, definitely.
yeah, the Dodgers are going to win. But if you get them in a 5, it increases your chances. You get them in a 7, the talent will out, and they've got so much talent. But like I said, when you add Peralta, there's a chance here because Soto is. Let's face facts. Soto, while a bit of a head case, is the greatest hitter on the planet if he's right, isn't he? I think because he's got that eye. I mean, to have, quite frankly, like an eye of a 220 hitter who's just trying to get on base, and then you mix in the talent and the fact that he has that stroke. He's a pretty perfect hitting machine. So anything can happen. You remember that cat for Atlanta a few years ago was not even a great player, just was out of his mind that one series. Remember, he went like 16 for 20, and it can change in a short series.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the Mets found that out in the NLCS with the Dodgers. It wasn't all the big name stars. It was all these guys, all the Tommy Edmonds and all the guys who were like, who is this guy who killed you? What I want to make sure that we get on the record is I don't know if you guys want to guess how much money Jeff McNeil's making this year, but he's
19.
getting 19. Well, no, okay, that as crazy as that is. So Jeff McNeil's getting $15.75 million this year. How much would you give him to not play on the Mets, Sal? If it was like here,
I'd give him 19 to sit on his ass and play golf.
Yeah,
I'm a firm believer in addition by subtraction.
Yeah,
I really am.
And I guarantee you he went to Oakland because the Bay Area has a lot of good golf courses. You're right up the road from Monterey. I think he was Ray Kroc in that helicopter flying over places looking for a place he could put a McDonald's. I think he just went online and said, okay, Oakland, I don't have to pay that much attention. It's the A's. I can do the Moneyball thing and boot, yeah. And then play golf. I can do day runs.
Salman and I have both been to the minor league park where the A's play their home games right now in Sacramento. I actually saw an A's game there.
It's nice.
Yeah.
Oh, it must be fun. It must be fun. Nice. I like that feeling.
They have a big berm out in the outfield where you can sit, and they hit home runs out there. It's beautiful. It's just not a major league park.
No, but it's a beautiful minor league park.
With the roster they have, it might as well be Williamsport with the berm.
Pretty much.
But I remember when Bob Prince used to announce Pirate games. You guys are too young, but way back, you're not that young, Sal. Settle down. But,
and I am 50 now.
At Crosley Field.
Yeah.
In St. Louis, where Joey Nuxall debuted at age 15 during the war. But the field, it went up. Not quite as graphic as the old Minute Maid Park thing where they had to change that. But the whole thing sort of sloped up, Crosley, and it wasn't that big a field. And when somebody would hit a dinger like Wilver Dornell, Stargell, Bob Prince, the gunner, he used to say, that ball's out over the moon deck. out on the I-75 in a pickup truck and on its way to Dayton. God, I used to love that call.
Uh, the final thing we'll talk about the Mets is the personal level. There is no audio to this. The polar bear Pete Alonso signing with the Baltimore Orioles was a bit of a heartbreak in my household because my daughter had just decided that he was her favorite player the last couple years, and I was worried, Dennis. I thought I might lose her at this point, and she did say, well, she likes the Orioles now, but she still likes the Mets. I'm not quite sure what to do about it, and our visual audience is seeing that he's having a really hard time buttoning that Orioles jersey. But we wouldn't want him to change too much, would we, Dennis?
Well, Pete was wondering if it was, he's so used to the Mets, he thought it was Puerto Rican Day, and he was trying to button it so it said Orioles, and he couldn't quite figure out where the buttons went. But listen, I like the polar bear. And I hope he does well there. I forget the layout of Camden. I've been there once, but does anybody know? Will he hit? I know there's a big building out in right field, isn't there? Or something?
Yeah, but he's gonna. It's not a bandbox. It's a little smaller, but you got to pencil him in for 40 bombs easy.
Yeah.
50 if it's.
Well, I like him, but
it's right.
Stearns. Listen, Stearns. These guys all base their genius, so-called genius. Maybe
Yeah.
Stearns is really good at it, but on certain precepts, and you can tell Stearns had a bug up his ass about paying anybody at first base who wasn't Keith Hernandez, like defensively, anything for 4 or 5 years
Right.
in the early 30s. It's just his rubric, and you got to roll with that. So I think the Bear must have known for a long time here that he was.
Yeah, it happened too quickly for him to have really, for us to believe that he thought that there was a chance that he would resign. He knew he was gone.
Yeah, well, why not move down the road? You're still in the North Corridor. You're still going to hit dingers.
Yeah.
I would say that the Petey, he probably will have a wine locker at Boog Powell's rib place out there in right field. I could see him going out there, and I'm happy for him. And I kind of like what we've done too. I don't know about Poblanco at first. I don't know if he can pick it. But listen, I think Beatty's a great athlete. I hope he doesn't get sent. And if he doesn't get sent, I think if you gave him an off season and just said, you're going to be our first baseman, I think he could master it. There's a few guys that are great, but let's face facts. There are a bunch of guys over there who have rudimentary skills. Give Pete that. He eventually mastered the pick out of the dirt. I mean, the short hop was beautiful. It was just, you could see he was like, who flung it home in the series, Christian, and blew it? We had a first baseman who also
Lucas Duda. Yeah.
Duda, yeah.
You and I were both at that game, Dennis.
Yeah, Duda and Pete had the same sort of unnatural understanding of the position.
He got the yips when he had to throw.
Yeah.
Important throws. And I agree with you, but 45 dingers takes away a lot of errors.
Yeah, I know. But like I said, once you turn the GM thing over to a guy and he's got a particular bug up his ass, you can't swim upstream. I'm not the GM. I like the polar bear. Everybody loved him. He must have had a great affinity with children because, as Christian mentions, his daughter and my grandson both gravitated towards him immensely. Seemed like a nice, big, genial guy.
Yeah.
It wasn't to be, and I'm kind of excited about them. But you had to trade something, for God's sakes. It's like my other team I told you about earlier, the LA Kings. I'm kind of watch them, but they bug me. This is stupid. And they got Panarin yesterday and traded their big prospect. And some people are on one side, some are on the other. I'm on the side of you got to change it if you're in the mushy middle. And we've become we weren't even mushy middle last year. Can you believe the Mets did not make the playoffs?
Right.
Yeah.
No changes had to be made. It was,
Yeah, I would have brought up Kelly Leak from the Bears. Have him cruise in on the motorbike.
He can still play a mean hot corner, Kelly Leak.
What was his name? He had 3 names.
Jackie Earl Haley.
Jackie Earl Haley. Beautiful.
Yeah. He had a bit of a renaissance about 15, 20 years ago. He was even the new Freddy Krueger for one movie.
Wow.
but you can't
What
replace
was-
Robert England, no matter
Well,
how hard
listen,
people
here's
try.
some inside hot stove stuff. I'll share it here because I love the Bladtcast. But my sources tell me, this isn't certain yet, but I think Khamenei out, Maduro taking over Iran. Now, I wouldn't bet money on it. I wouldn't FanDuel it, but that's just what my sources tell me is that's why they whacked Maduro down there and brought him here. They're sending him into Iran to take over.
Well, and I feel like in a deal like that, there always needs to be a dictator to be named later.
Yeah. And the throw in, because they just opened a course of all sand traps over there, is Jeff McNeil, and he wants to work on his North Africa sand game.
On that note, bringing it full circle, I'll say thank you to Mr. Dennis Miller.
Boys, good to see you. You know, I love you both. I love you dearly, and I miss you. That was
Love
the
you
best.
more.
The
Yes.
camaraderie of the podcast was
Yes,
my
indeed.
room, and I miss you both. But Christian, good luck, and I'm going down. I'll call you when I get back. I'm going down to Mets camp, and once again, for the people from Pittsburgh who might watch this, I still follow the Bucks, but it's like the Ice Capades now. They're just not gonna win. And my son follows the Mets, and you know how important the father-son connection is with baseball. And so when he went to NYU, he grew fond of them. That's why when you hear me say stuff about the Mets, know that I grew up with Pittsburgh. I remember being out in that bullpen seats in Forbes Field. This is one of my favorite childhood memories. It turns up in Angels in the Outfield, the old one, with Janet Leigh in it. But there used to be a hibachi grill out there. Everybody had a steamed hot dog in the rest of Forbes Field, but the bleachers out there were like $1 for a kid to get a seat. They had hibachi dogs with just onions. I still eat them like that to this day because the stirred would always run out and they wouldn't refill it. So we just had onions. And I remember Bob Beal, the big flamethrower for the Buccos, got sent. He was a starter, but they sent him to the bullpen on off days. He would sit out there, and I think he came out for the dogs, but he would fire me $1 in between the fence and say, "Give me a couple dogs, kid."
Wow.
Can you imagine you're
I
a little
love
kid
that.
Wow.
and you send the dogs back through to the big man, and he said, "Give me a little cup of onions," because you couldn't put the onions; they wouldn't fit through the
Right.
fence hole without knocking it all
loophole,
off.
right.
You think this meant a lot to me that I have this specific a memory, and then
Wow.
he'd slide me $1. And I would say, at that point in my life, I might as well have met, you know, David Lean on
Confucius.
the red carpet at Cannes. It was like the biggest thrill of my life.
Well, the final thought I have is that pretty much everyone who is part of the Ice Capades makes more than anyone on the Pittsburgh Pirates 2026 payroll. But you know, I think the Ice Capades, this is their year, Dennis. We'll see you soon. I can't wait to hear your inside
guys.
scouting down at Port St. Lucie. We'll talk to Dennis again soon, and we will see you all next time on the Bladtcast.
Happy birthday.
Well, it was really so much fun getting the chance to record with Dennis again after so long that I wanted to share some fun bonus content with you. So the segment that you just saw with Dennis, Salman, and I, that was actually a do-over after there were some issues with tech and scheduling. So let me give you a bonus clip of Salman and I watching some Mets-related baseball clips before we got Dennis back. So check that out right now, and I'll have some more content for you right after this. In terms of the deals that were made, the Mets getting Bo Bichette was, I think, a good addition. That's what you were talking about. But also stealing him from under the Phillies is, you know, it's a twofer. And I hope you guys will be able to hear it well enough. But this was a Philly Talk sports YouTube show, a streaming show, as the news breaks. And they were convinced that the night before, everybody thought, like, okay, Bo Bichette's going to the Phillies. So these are these guys learning on the air.
I don't want to say want Bichette back because he's an excellent hitter and you want that type of player in your lineup. But it
Can you
feels
talk
like
to
the Blue
Sal
Jays
for a
have
second when we
potentially.
get back? I got to drop out for 1 second.
Bo Bichette? Bo Bichette to the Mets?
What?
What? Why? They have Simeon Lindor and Vientos.
How much do you like
What?
that? What?
The Mets?
Love it. I love these guys.
Are you bleeping kidding me?
I guess it's for the radio. Yeah.
Oh my God.
The Mets? Here's the thing.
Where's he playing?
Are you basking in this at all? The Philly pain, the Philly disappointment, Salman.
Oh, yes.
This is another reaction to Bo Bichette. Dennis let us know that he'll be back with us momentarily.
Yeah.
But this is more Bo Bichette reaction. This gang gets together, and I'll let it speak for itself.
Talking about for the past 10 days, and then to hear the Bichette deal so close and then falling apart, what do you think?
Yeah, it feels like the Lufthansa heist at LaGuardia, in Goodfellas. I mean, the Mets play right next to LaGuardia, and they swooped in and cut the Phillies off at the pass.
So I figured you'd like a reference to the Lufthansa heist.
Any Lufthansa heist reference is good for me.
I'm only going to give partial credit to Jim Salisbury because he said from Goodfellas.
Right.
But the Lufthansa heist actually happened.
Oh, yeah. It's a real thing.
Yeah. So in any case, obviously there's reactions like that, but it's all been kind of subdued so far. You want outrage in the city of brotherly love, don't you?
I do.
Just lost out to the Mets. Bo Bichette. We just lost out. Middleton. What happened to stupid money? Overpay because it's 3 years, 126. You want your trophy back? Where is Bichette? You lost out to the Mets. It's unthinkable. Unthinkable. Misery week continues. First the Eagles, everybody loses, and now we lost Bichette. Are you kidding me?
So believe me, I saved these. I pulled these for the show that I do, Hooters Broadcasters, and I knew that you were going to enjoy these. I thought that we might, use them for the our annual baseball preview is going to be coming up before we know it. So I thought that maybe we'd have some fun and look at these now. There's a guy that I focus on a lot. Maybe you've seen some of these clips before, and I might have sent them to you. A gentleman who goes by Broads, Hunter Brody. He's usually really unhinged on his YouTube channel. He was in the radio studio, 94 WIP. So he's a little bit more subdued in that moment. And Dennis.
I'm going to try my very best to keep my cool, but damn it, there's no way in hell that's going to happen. Because Dave Dombrowski is delusional. The Phillies are a dysfunctional mess. 7 years, 200 for Bo Bichette. That was never going to get the job done. He got 126 in 3 years. There's opt-outs all over the place nowadays for these free agents, yet Preston Mattingly, our general manager, said not too long ago that they don't do opt-outs. Oh, okay. So you don't do what the league does to get the premier talent in this league, knowing that there's going to be a major dispute going on with the CBA and the league, and there's going to be a holdout that's going to be a mess. This was what you needed to do. 7 years, 200. Are you nuts? The Phillies were getting used by Bo Bichette and the agency. You know what this is like? You're taking out a woman multiple times, taking her out to dinner, spending a couple $100 every time. You're getting her a nice purse for Christmas. You're not dating or anything, but, you're constantly taking her out. You get her flowers. You're the emotional support system. She looks at you as a nice fallback option. Guess what? The other guys she's seeing, they're in the bed. Okay? They're under the sheets. They're doing a nice little how do you do on a Friday night.
All right, so now what I have for you is the entire segment with Dennis Miller that we recorded for the third annual Super Bowl halftime show. This was for a show that I do with my buddy Eric Zane. Who are these broadcasters? This was alternative content for the Super Bowl halftime show for everybody who didn't care to see Bad Bunny or Kid Rock. So let's check that out right now. Yes, welcome back to the Who Are These Broadcasters Super Bowl halftime extravaganza, I think is the right word for it, Eric Zane. Glad that everybody's hanging out with us and happy to welcome to the festivities my friend, the great Dennis Miller. How are you, sir?
Hi, Eric. Hi, Christian. How's life? You good?
We're doing good.
Never better.
I had the under in the first half, so I don't want to talk about it. But
I remember years ago when they always have those interviews with the president, or Riley would interview the president before the show, and he was interviewing Barack Obama, and he said, "What should I ask Obama?" And I said, "You should ask him if at the end of the game the winning team should give enough of their points to the losing team that it's a tie and everybody wins." And he said, "I can't ask him that. He's the president." I said, "Bill, he's talking about socialism all the time. He's talking to Joe the plumber." This is how long ago that was. Saying, "You could kick in a little." I would have loved to have seen him dance around that answer.
Yeah, well, I mean, Obama would talk about how he was a diehard White Sox fan, but just don't ask any follow-up questions, like
you saw Frank Thomas is all pissed off at the Pale Hose, one of my favorite sports teams nicknames ever, the Pale Hose for the White Sox, because they did their Kenny Williams and him, the GM, ended on such horrific terms that they hardly mentioned him in their what is it, Black History Month or something?
Correct. Yes.
So Kenny Williams has the organization under Jerry, I guess, has their final revenge against the Big Hurt.
Yeah, which it shouldn't take too much time out of his day, but if there is somebody who wants to be acknowledged for how great he was, it is actually the Big Hurt. You just have to always talk to him about how great he was.
I didn't know that much about him, Kristen. I know he was great, but I see in the year he won the series that he didn't play the whole year, which must be maddening to a guy like him that they finally won. And I think he was hurt for a great deal of that year. Is that true?
Well, yeah, he's a Big Hurt. I mean, come on.
Yeah, that was the irony that he had the nickname the Big Hurt because he hurt the baseball, but then unfortunately he was hurt more than Griffey for a stretch there. But he is one of those guys that if you said, "Ladies and gentlemen, Frank Thomas," he'd be like, "Hall of Famer Frank Thomas." I'm sorry, yes, of course. So Hall of Famer Dennis Miller. Eric and I were talking beforehand, and he reminded me that the radio show he used to work for, Free Beer and Hot Wings, used the same merch company that we used when we did a radio show on Westwood One. And Eric, tell Dennis what you were told.
Every time we weren't doing enough, a guy by the name of Pyam would perk up and always say, and he spoke with a thick accent, so I'm going to ruin it. He'd say, "You have to," and you were the template. Your show was the template for merch, for doing the right thing, because you must do it like Dennis Miller. He's got this and that, and we're like, God damn it. And for years, I kept hearing about how great the merch is.
The merch was
for the show. And so to now, and then as soon as I mentioned the name Pyam to Christian, he's like, "Oh yeah, I remember that.
I remember this guy." Now you dealt more with a guy named Eric, Dennis. They were partners in that company.
Christian, we sold like 4 hats over an 8-year
That's
period.
kind of what I wanted to get to. And I'd be like, "Oh, that's so funny," because I brought some merch. This was a wedding gift from our friend Rob Lorich. This was the Dennis Miller Whitland kit. And our friend Rob Lorich gave us, my wife and I, his and hers Whitland kits, which is great. But this was the coveted item, which might look actually great. So this was the Dennis Miller listening fez. Which I don't even know if you have one of these, Dennis.
Yeah, I have one in my. I do have one. That's the one thing I wanted, because nothing makes me laugh harder than the concept of the listening fez.
Yes. And I have a box of Kwok Brothers T-shirts, which
Right.
I don't think we could play those ads anymore.
No, geez, we'd be strung up.
That's a
Fantastic.
bygone
That was
era.
great.
That was a Chinese restaurant that was a sponsor of the old show. But
we can't even describe to you,
Nope.
Eric, what the ads were about without
No, I
putting
do too.
ourselves in
Yeah.
media prison.
It was a very different era. And someone once sent me something that this was not for the show, but you know about this, of course, the Dennis Miller doll. I believe I have the R-rated one, the one who uses the bad word.
Yeah, there was two, one that swore and one that swore more. No, one that swore and one that didn't swore. Occasionally I will see those turn up at a flea market or something, and it's just oh, what's that, baby? What is the real? Oh, my wife says she sees them on a resale site called The Real, and they sell for a few drachma a piece.
Well, the next time I see you, I'm going to bring an authenticator with me, have you sign it, and then have it hermetically sealed so that I can try and wet my beak, as they say.
What was Dennis? What did you see in young Christian that led him to the heights that he has now? I mean, you gave him a lot of responsibility as the years went on. He had to have impressed you in some particular way. What stood out to you?
I love that he asked that question and immediately disappears. I'm sure we'll get him right back.
He's one of the funniest people I've ever met. I mean, I'm pretty bloodless about funny. He made me laugh uproariously, and then when you find out he's one of the nicest people you ever meet, and now a great family man, he checked all the boxes for me. Good cat, good hang, made me laugh uproariously, and a good, decent human being.
That's fantastic.
Not so young anymore because I'm 50 now. But
right.
From that, all the rest I appreciate.
Geez, Christian, 50 years old. When did I meet you? You were halfway down the. You were still in your amniotic sac.
Yeah, I still had a tail. It fell off in the second season of the CNBC show. Which, speaking of merch, by the way. Yeah, and I was explaining to Eric that the writers on that CNBC show would put me in so many sketches, and I would give it my all, but I was so terrible. You couldn't help but notice that, like, oh, this guy is so earnestly playing my no good teenage son,
right,
Dak, in like a cheap $5 long hair wig. Yeah,
right. What was that kid's name? Dak or Zach?
It was Dak. Yeah, our buddy, a very nice man, Bob Oshak, came up with that character.
Oh, that used to make me laugh. It was. It seems to me that we always do these reductio absurdum things where the byplay is never extrapolative. It's just I'm extrapolative on the front end, and then I send it to you, and you either run out in a huff like Dak, or give a prognosis as chimp doctor. Remember, I'd read those things that were like 2 minutes long, dear chimp doctor, and then I'd give a long litany of symptoms that would take, and they were very involved and very accurate. It was like I was Noah Wally walking through the halls of the pit or something, and then you at the end, you as chimp doctor, your cure was. Whoop. That used to make me laugh. So we've often had an odd. Our repartee is heavily one-sided.
I once vowed that you would never see me do chimp doctor on camera. So
yeah, wow.
Yeah.
wow. I feel
it's like Mickey Mouse taking his head off. You can't see it.
Have you by the way, glimpsed the great Dana Gould talk show where he's Professor Zayas?
Oh, yeah, I think you told me about that. So,
it's just him doing a talk show, and he's kind of goofy and once removed and sometimes gormless, but sometimes very insightful as Dana can be. And it's just him dressed up. Nothing makes me laugh harder than him going into sort of Miss Jane Pittman makeup at 4 a.m. to do a streaming show as Dr. Zayas.
So while we're talking halftime at the Super Bowl, I wanted to talk about, you've always told me so many stories about how much fun you had on Monday Night Football. And there's a couple of facts that I remember over the years. And I think the most interesting was the first time you ever attended an NFL game.
Yeah, because Pittsburgh, you couldn't get tickets in Pittsburgh. Maybe, when I was young, I didn't go. And then when it was time that I could buy my own tickets or stuff like that, the Steelers were, the Patriots of yore. They were, in my eyes, the greatest football team ever, and you couldn't get into tickets. It was like Lambeau, where they had to will them to you. And then, to be honest, I always enjoyed watching football games on TV. Pittsburgh is not the warmest climes on the planet, so the idea of schlepping down to the stadium when often an icy field at Three Rivers, I remember it was one of the hardest surfaces. I always thought, once they did that thing where they could televise home games, guess what? It was never a big ticket priority for me to go to a game or any sport event for that matter. I kind of like watching them at home. They weren't big screen TVs then, but they were coming along. And now you'd have to be crazy, I think, to sally forth into the the world at large to watch it when you can watch it and get an amazing experience at home. So I remember standing there and heard that music, da, 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 and I'm thinking, I can't believe I somehow stumbled onto Monday Night Football. I wonder if I should tell Al I've never been to a game before. And I thought, no, that can't help anybody at this point. Just sit on that information.
Speaking of Hall of Famers, obviously you did get to work with the great Al Michaels, and you've told plenty of times, plenty of stories about the great times. You and Albino, I believe, he's known by you. But there was a quirk about the fact that he was adamant about keeping his expense reports in line, right, Dennis?
Yeah, I mean, Al's the greatest announcer ever in my book. And by the way, I see in that group picture there Melissa Stark, and I have to say, good for Melissa because she and I, Eric to some degree, but he had the imprimatur of being one of the greatest running backs ever. Fauci and being a humongous were sort of bulletproof because they were accomplished at it. But we faced a lot of, be it justified or not, I'm not whining, but I remember Melissa being under the gun too when we first started it. And for her to rise from the ashes, and she's so great at it now. I find her so endearing, and at the draft in a sea of insincerity. At least she has a moment here and there where you can see she's thinking in the moment and laughing. So I have to say that Melissa, I'm really fond of her and proud of her that she has remounted and is now, is it Monday night or Sunday? She's back on one of the night football casts, so I'm happy for her. I remember Al, they used to ask him to keep receipts, and I said, Al, you're the greatest announcer ever. I don't need to see you peeling a tissue paper receipt off the Domino's box, for God's sakes. Forget it. Let me, you know what I mean? So I took my whole first year's salary, maybe my second year's, and bought a timeshare in a jet because I wanted to get home on Tuesday mornings to take my kids to school. So I think jet buying a partial share of a jet has gotten incrementally more expensive in the interim. At that point, listen, it wasn't a bargain, but you could still do it. And I just bought a bunch of hours in a jet. And I said, I'll just kick your money in, give me your ticket money, and you can fly back with me. And then all of a sudden, I noticed that the NBC must not, or I don't even know who we work for. I get
ABC,
confused. ABC, was it?
Yeah.
I noticed that some of these major media companies became taken over by capital cities and widget companies and Florsheim shoes, it seems to me. And I noticed that Olmeyer would fly with me occasionally. I'd think, for God's sakes, the executive producer is giving me his $1,500 ticket to fly back from me. But we used to have a great time on the plane. I remember at the end of the game, Albino was a Johnny Walker Red guy, and I was Stoley on the rocks. And we'd be out of that booth and tossing a drink because neither one of us loved to fly all that much. And there'd be a golf cart outside. It would take you down to a police car who would take you to the airport. We'd be on the plane like after we wrapped in around 30 minutes getting blasted already.
outstanding.
Yeah, it's
Oh.
Phil Rizzuto on the George Washington Bridge after the 7th inning stretch.
Scooter, beautiful stuff. Used to love that where he'd call in, and occasionally they'd have one of those games for the ages, Christian, and Scooter'd be up. I'm out here the Fort Lee.
So you mentioned Don Ohlmeyer, and obviously you were there on Monday Night Football to be Dennis Miller because that's all you can be. And I remember you telling me about one of the perhaps more obscure references that you referenced. Somebody was getting all bound up with a lot of athletic tape, I think, and Ohlmeyer came to your defense.
Well, I remember that they were wrapping somebody's, and I said, I haven't seen that much fabric used. And by the way, I used to call him Venus Humongous, all hail Venus Humongous. And then the note on Monday from the league office was, Paul Tagliabue wants to know if you're calling him Penis. And I said, no, Venus. And they said, they can't make it out. They think you're calling him Penis on the air. And I said, well, I can start if that's the... But imagine that's when you're a stranger in a strange land and might not be the ideal fit, that they actually think that you might be on the air calling your broadcast partner Penis Humongous.
Yeah.
That you have to explain, no, it's Venus. What does Venus Humongous mean? I said, I don't know. His name's Al. I started calling him Albino. That morphed into Albinus, and then that made me think of a Roman emperor. So whenever I would see him, I would hit my chest with my fist and go, all hail Venus Humongous. And then I thought, this is my sense of humor, and I don't know that this is the place for it. So after 2 years, when I got whacked, I wasn't quite that surprised by it. But I remember saying when they wrapped the player, I haven't seen this much fabric used since the environmental artist Christo wrapped the Pont Neuf Bridge in Paris. And you have a sneeze button in the booth, where you can hit it and cut your voice out to the home viewer. And I remember Al hit it, and he looked at me after that reference. We're on the air, and he goes, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And then I hear Ohlmeyer on our headphones from down in the booth saying, No, Al, Christo. Environmental artist, solid reference. That's a solid reference. Okay, boys, 3rd and 6. I'm thinking if they could only hear this weirdness at home.
Oh.
By the way, Eric Zane and I have been doing a show together for 3 years, and at no point have you ever called me Penis Humongous. And I think
now.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Hey, how did you and Eric meet? And are you related to Billy Zane?
Blind date, and no. Originally the guy who put this whole podcast network together, he wanted to do a show, basically what this show is, and he thought Christian would be good at it. Christian made friends with this guy at about the same time I made friends with him. So he goes, how about you guys do a show? And then here we are.
Yeah, and Eric became friends with this guy, Carl, because Eric made fun of his radio show on his show, and Eric had a good sense of humor about it, right? Or was it your podcast?
No, Carl made fun of my podcast. Yes. Yeah. He roasts podcasts. That's his niche. Mm-hmm. And he's gotten very good at it and quite a tremendous audience. And so he listened to my shitty podcast and he ripped me a new asshole. And then I kind of rolled with it. And now we're pals. And here we are.
And now you're here with me.
Complete acquiescence is a great icebreaker, Zane.
100%.
Absolutely. You mentioned Don Ohlmeyer a couple of times, and he's come up recently because, I think you might be the only Saturday Night Live Weekend Update anchor that he liked, because your old castmate Kevin Nealon mentioned that he learned in a Lorne Michaels book why he was fired from SNL. And,
why was that?
There was one of many articles, which probably happened a few times while you were there as well, and it said, Saturday Night Dead, because they're always called that. And one of the reasons they said was Nealon doing Weekend Update. And apparently Ohlmeyer said, he's a bit of a mushmouth, that he was a mushmouth and his delivery is not crisp enough. And Nealon was on a podcast and he's like, I had no idea that that's what happened until I read this Lorne Michaels book. But he was on Another Year, And he was like, I was happy to get back to sketches,
Mhm.
so it was, as you know, that's a lot of work, but it was perfect because I don't want to kiss the ring too much, but you were great at it, but also you didn't have to worry about being in any dumb sketches, Dennis.
Well, at the beginning, they wanted me to do sketches, but I would always be the fourth lead because there were people who were far more accomplished. Now, you still have to block for the same amount of time. Sorry, is that too close? But I had to
No, that's
lean
fine.
a little. Um, you still had to be there for these 2.5 hour blocking things. And literally, I'm the guy putting the napkin under the drink and pushing it at the bar to somebody who's better at it than me. So I used to go around and ask the writers not to put me in if they could avoid it. Sometimes you had to because they were stretched thin. But I didn't want to be in sketches. I always thought of it like the DH. I thought, man, stay back into the tunnel. This is before they had batting machines under the bleachers. Just stay back here with the Elston Howard donut ring, swing it, play a hard ass kicking rock and roll entrance. And then I used to warm the crowd up too. So it's sort of a perfect amuse bouche, hopefully literally a moose, to have them see you a little, then not have them see you for around a half an hour to 40 minutes. Then come out with power stations, cover a bang of gong, and crazy rubber Statue of Liberty, and come on. And I always thought of myself like Larry Mahan in the rodeo. Like, got 8 minutes here, just to hang on and kick ass, go fast, rat-a-tat-tat, be a smart ass, and then get off and not be seen anywhere else. So it was a business decision. I was never going to be the guy in sketches. I'm a perfunctory sketch performer.
Well, except of course for your masterpiece, Coco, Michu, and LeBay,
Yeah.
which I think people can find that online. That's basically that's like retiring when you're at the top. You're like, I'm done with sketches.
I told Carvey, I said, I bet you I can get a really weird sketch on under the guise of being esoteric. And he said, bet. I think we were going for a crab dinner or something. And I made it about three French clowns who were seeking water in the outside Lombardy, and they had divining rods.
And you can find it online. People can watch it. I can't share it because of copyright things. Otherwise, we'd take a little look.
I made it so weird. And then we had a song, and we each had a sound, and we had funny outfits. And I remember we did one with Paulina Porskova as a princess. And Carvey said, well, listen, a lot of things slipped through to get on, but we need a second one to verify this. And we got another one. I can't even remember the details of that one. And then we retired Coco Michu.
One final thing I want to talk to you about, also someone tied to Don Ohlmeyer, is the great Norm Macdonald, who there's a number of pictures I could have found of you and Norm, but you're like bowled over laughing in all of them. And, I do love the level of appreciation and reverence there is for Norm now, even if maybe he wasn't appreciated as well as he could have been in the moment. But what's a particularly fond Norm Macdonald memory for you, Dennis?
Well, he was a genius, and he was not a cat I could get a firm handle on. But I remember I gave him his first job in L.A., other than doing one night comedy things. And I remember Eddie Feldman. Eddie said, he was my head writer at the time. He said, I saw a comedian who just moved here from Canada, and he did a joke at the Improv that I know you'd love. It was about the homeless. He feels sorry for the homeless guy, but he really feels sorry for the homeless guy's dog, because the dog's thinking, this is the longest fucking walk I have ever been on. Do we eventually go in somewhere? Because I could do this on my own, which made me laugh so hard. So I said, well, let me talk to him. Maybe he needs a gig. And I said to Norm, listen, I'll put you in a room with Drake Sather, who's another genius, an iconoclastic genius. I said, you guys don't have to play traditional talk show roles. Remember, they tinfoiled their windows shut and shut their door. And I said, just around 11 o'clock each day, if you could push out 10 jokes under the door, I'll leave you alone. And I said, I remember I telling Norm, I said, your jokes are so funny. If they're too funny, I won't use them because you should keep them. You're going to be great at comedian. And he always, I think that won him in a way where he trusted me, where I said, I said, give me doubles and triples. I don't want your home runs. This is just a talk show. So, we grew to like each other. And then his submission, by the way, to get the job, the final submission was he said, Eddie asked him for a batch of jokes. And he said, I don't do batches, Dennis, which made me laugh. And I said, well, Eddie's the head writer here, and I have to have some modicum of, organization. So if you could do it just to, I said, the job will be yours, but I'd like Eddie to have his system that we adhere to. So he said, I'll write one joke and I'll send it in if you like the joke. And the joke was almost an AP wire report of the Dahmer case, which was happening then. And it was really, it was like unedited copy about they removed the spleen and ate it and all this stuff that was really unnerving. And at the end, here's Norm's joke. All he did was add to the AP Wire story. In his defense, Dahmer said he started it, which is such a crazy, funny joke. Oh, that's that special I did where
The
he
Millennium
came on
Special,
and
yes.
talked about penises. But anyway, we grew to be good friends. But with Norm, you were never. He could see. I didn't know he was sick. I mean, imagine that all those years. A lot of people don't. I'm trying to think. Maybe Gervitz did, our manager, but he was a lovely cat. And I sat behind him once at his son was graduating from a school that my nephew was graduating from. And I got there for the graduation ceremonies. And who sits in front of me, but offset, like a knight's chess move, two up, one over, is Norm with his son. And he doesn't see me. So it's the great position of being the fly on the wall. And I see Norm being so normal and nice and cool with his kid. It's like Fred McMurray. So, when it was finally I tapped him after, I said, nice to see you. You reside on planet Earth too. And that's called for because he was always such an ethereal creature. But I saw a real glimpse of Norm. He was a lovely man, very Canadian. Met his mom once. She was so sweet. And you could tell she had an impish sense of humor. But I do remember one of my last interactions with Norm is I was in Bhutan in the Himalayas, and I must have been up at 14,000 feet. I couldn't sleep. You're all dried out. And I looked up at the night sky, and the guy said he had a satellite phone or something where you could text people. I said, who can I text from Bhutan at this time? I didn't even know what time it was in the States. And I text Norm. I said, Norm, I had to pick you. You're my most, you're my most existential friend. I'm in Bhutan. I'm at 14,000. I lay the whole thing out for you. I could hear yaks in the background. It's the middle of the night. I can't sleep. And like within 17 seconds, Norm gets back to me. He's like, the Sherpa must be sacrificed in the saddle of the mountain above the lair at dawn, in an offering to the yak god. I just don't have it. It's so funny to me that not only did he roll with it or say, wow, Bhutan, nothing, no reaction whatsoever that I'm in the Himalayas. It's just immediately he's got me in some ritual sacrifice to appease the mountain god.
Did you share it with anybody when you were there?
No, I don't. The people I was with wouldn't understand Norm. Norm was he was one of those friendships that was so precious in a way that you didn't want to beat on that drum, like because you thought, like when Norm died, I didn't want to. There's some cats who are so special that you shouldn't share. Yeah, to me, when you share things on social media and all that, that's not an homage. That's like almost a chest beat for you. He was a good cat. I don't think he would have dug that. I know he tweeted a lot in that, but it was usually about golf tournaments or mindless stuff. Yeah. But my interaction with him And I don't want to say it was daily. By no means. I'd go months without talking to him, but I did feel a closeness with him. And he was, well, he's one of the most unique comedy minds that this world has ever had.
I definitely agree, and it was a pleasure and a privilege that when we first started the radio show, we'd have him on every week. So he would want to do like a pre-interview, which, by the way, had nothing to do with what he'd actually talk about. I think he was just like, "Oh yeah, I'll talk to somebody on the phone." But
Yeah, remember he had that puppet he would come on, who was a Holocaust denier.
yeah. So on the radio, Eric, he would do some ventriloquist dummies, and he had a few of them. And he said that there's one that's particularly unpopular. One of their names was Old Jackson, but I don't think he was the Holocaust. But there is, he's like, oh yeah, no, nobody wants to hear from whatever this guy was, Jimmy. He's a Holocaust denier. And so it was enough to want to do a ventriloquist dummy on the radio. Dennis, we can't thank you enough, and what a perfect time to leave you with this image that I was able to dig up. You can go ahead and find it's Coco with a K, Mishu and LeBay. You can find it on YouTube. Saturday Night Live.
Look at Kevin Nealon. His name was LeBay, and he never said anything in these except occasionally he'd go.
Easy. Is there any final thoughts? Anything that I talked too much and didn't let you ask, Dennis?
No, I enjoyed listening to you too. I mean, the fact that you guys have this relationship, it's astounding to me, and that I'm just appreciative that Dennis took the time to join us. It's awesome.
Well,
nice to meet you, Eric. And
in 20 years, Eric Zane and I will also be really close, and we'll have a rapport. It's going to take a while.
Beautiful. You're easy to do that with, Christian. How's your babies and your bride? Everything good?
Everybody's doing reasonably well, for Hollywood. My son's 10, my daughter's 8, and they're chock full of activities. And Eric Zane and I will be back in a moment, and I want to let people know that Dennis will be on my personal podcast as well, the Bladtcast, talking to a couple of old friends, but we'll be right back right after this, as they say.
So long.
And that is our show. Thanks again for the great Dennis Miller for being so generous with his time. Thank you to Eric Zane, who inadvertently just made his first appearance on the Bladtcast and can be found with me every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, on Who Are These Broadcasters, which can be found on the Who Are These Podcasts YouTube channel. It is also available as an audio podcast. Also, I must thank the Dark Prince himself, Salman. And of course, the sweetheart of the Bladtcast, Ms. Lindsey Floyd. She finally came back on the Bladtcast, and as I said, she will return, not in Avengers Doomsday, but she will be returning on the Bladtcast very soon, and she will be talking about Lost, as we mentioned. And yes, it was very unfortunate that everyone couldn't hear each other during that segment with Lindsey. I did message her. She was so happy to be able to be on with Dennis, and to a lesser extent with me. So she felt like it went great. She had a fun time. So in case anybody's worried about that, but don't worry, we'll see Lindsey again soon. But all that being said, all that out of the way, that has been our supersized show, cobbled together though it may have been, and we will see you next time on the Bladtcast.